When Shaquille O'Neal's phone rang at 3:17 a.m. on Tuesday, September 9th, 2025, he almost didn't answer. The number was blocked, had been blocked for 20 years, but his phone was ringing anyway. Somehow it got through. He was in his Atlanta home, master bedroom, king-sized bed that was custom-built because regular king-sized beds are twin beds when you're 7 feet 1 inch tall and 325 pounds. The room was dark except for the green glow of the charging cable on his nightstand and the white light now flooding from his phone screen. Area code 504, New Orleans. Music. A number he had not seen in 2 decades. A number he had deleted, blocked, and buried so deep in his past that he genuinely believed it was gone forever. But here it was, ringing, at 3:17 in the morning, breaking through every digital wall he had built. He sat up. He stared at the screen. His finger hovered over the red decline button for 4 full seconds. Then something stopped him. Something his stepfather once told him when he was 15 years old and angry at the world. The calls you're most afraid to answer are usually the ones you need to hear most. Shaq pressed the green button. Music. He lifted the phone to his ear. He said nothing, just listened. And the voice on the other end, quiet and shaking and older than he remembered but unmistakable, said 5 words that made his entire body go cold. She's dying, Shaq. She asked for you. Stay with us through this entire story because what Shaq discovers in the next 48 hours, what was hidden in New Orleans for 20 years, and what he finds in a hospital room at 6 a.m. on a Thursday morning, will break you in the best possible way. And by the time this is over, you will never think about forgiveness the same way again. The voice belonged to Marcus Chen, 42 years old now, but Shaq remembered him at 22. Skinny kid from the 9th Ward, with a gap between his front teeth and a basketball obsession that bordered on religious. Marcus had worked as an equipment manager for the New Orleans Hornets back in 2004, when Shaq was still with the Lakers, but came to town for summer charity events. Marcus wasn't staff, he was a volunteer. Showed up every single day at 5 a.m. to set up cones, fill water bottles, organize jerseys. Never asked for anything, never complained. But Marcus had a younger sister. Music. Her name was Aisha Chen, 16 years old in 2004. Bright, impossibly bright. The kind of kid who read 4 books a week and memorized poetry just because it made her happy. She wanted to be a lawyer. She wanted to help people who couldn't help themselves. She had a future so clear you could see it from space. And then one night in July of 2004, Aisha was walking home from the library on Claiborne Avenue at 8:45 p.m. A car ran a red light at the intersection of St. Bernard. Hit her at 60 miles per hour. Didn't stop. Kept going. Music. She survived. Barely. Traumatic brain injury, multiple surgeries, ICU for 11 weeks. The doctors said she would never walk again, never speak in full sentences, never live independently. Marcus dropped out of college to take care of her. Their mother, Diane Chen, worked 3 jobs to cover what insurance wouldn't. Shaq heard about it. He visited Aisha once in the hospital, brought flowers, signed a basketball, took a photo with Marcus, promised he would help, promised he would check in, promised he would make sure they were okay, and then he left. Music. He got busy. Training camp started, the season began, the Lakers were chasing another championship, the world got loud and bright and big, the way it always did for Shaq, and Marcus kept calling, kept texting, kept reaching out. For 8 months, updates about Aisha, questions about resources, requests for help connecting to specialists, and Shaq stopped responding. Not out of cruelty, not intentionally, he just stopped. The messages piled up. The calls went to voicemail, and eventually, in March of 2005, Shaq blocked the number, because it was easier to not see the name than to answer and admit he had failed to keep a promise. Music. He told himself Marcus would understand. He told himself people knew how busy he was. He told himself a lot of things that made it easier to sleep at night. 20 years passed. Shaq won championships, built an empire, became a doctor, became a television personality, became one of the most famous human beings on the planet, and he never thought about Marcus Chen again. Until 3:17 a.m. on September 9th, 2025. She's dying, Shaq. She asked for you. Shaq's voice came out quieter than he expected. Who? Aisha. Marcus's voice cracked. My sister. She's at Tulane Medical Center. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer. They gave her 3 weeks, maybe less. Music. The room tilted slightly. Shaq gripped the edge of the mattress. She's been asking about you for 2 days straight, Marcus continued. I know you blocked my number. I know you don't owe us anything. But I had to try. She keeps saying your name, over and over. I don't know why, but I thought... He stopped. Breathed. I thought you should know. Shaq's throat was dry. When did she... 2 months ago. Diagnosis came fast, spread faster. A pause. I'm sorry to call this late. I'm sorry to call at all. But she doesn't have much time. Shaq sat in the dark. Outside his window, Atlanta was silent. No cars, no voices, just the low hum of the air conditioning and the sound of his own breathing. I'll be there, he said. Marcus went quiet for a long moment. You will? First flight out. I'll be there. Music. He hung up. He sat on the edge of his custom bed in his Atlanta mansion, this man who had everything, and put his face in his hands. To understand what happened next, you have to go back. You have to go back past the championships, past the fame, past all of it. You have to go back to Newark, New Jersey, March 6, 1972. Shaquille O'Neal was born to Lucille O'Neal, a woman who worked 2 jobs and still found time to teach her son that kindness was not optional. His stepfather, Philip Harrison, was a U.S. Army sergeant who moved the family from base to base. Germany, Georgia, Texas. Shaq learned early that being big didn't make you important. Being decent did. His mother used to say, you are not too much. The world is still catching up to you. Music. His stepfather said something different. How you treat people when you fail them. That is who you really are. Shaq had failed Marcus, failed Aisha. And for 20 years, he had carried that failure in a locked box somewhere inside himself he never opened. But at 3:17 a.m. on a Tuesday in September, the box cracked open. Shaq landed in New Orleans at 11:42 a.m. He rented a black SUV. He drove straight to Tulane Medical Center. He wore a gray hoodie, sunglasses, a baseball cap pulled low. He did not want to be recognized. Not today. This was not a photo opportunity. This was something else entirely. He walked through the automatic doors at 12:33 p.m. The hospital smelled like disinfectant and sadness. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead. A nurse at the desk looked up. Her eyes went wide. She recognized him immediately, despite the disguise. I'm here to see Aisha Chen, he said quietly. Music. The nurse's expression changed, softened. Room 447, 4th floor, palliative care wing. Shaq nodded. He walked to the elevator, pressed the button, waited. His reflection stared back at him from the steel doors. 53 years old, 7 feet 1 inch, hands the size of dinner plates, 4 NBA championships, a PhD, a life most people only dream about, and right now, none of it mattered. The elevator doors opened. He stepped inside. He rode to the 4th floor in silence. Marcus was standing outside room 447. He looked older, grayer, tired in a way that went deeper than missing sleep. He wore a blue button-down shirt and jeans that had been washed too many times. His hands were shaking slightly. When he saw Shaq step off the elevator, his whole body went still. Music. Shaq walked toward him. Marcus didn't move, didn't speak, just stared. Shaq stopped 3 feet away. Marcus. Marcus's eyes filled. He pressed his lips together. Then he said very quietly, You came. I said I would. People say a lot of things. Marcus looked down, breathed, looked back up. Thank you. Shaq didn't know what to say to that, so he said nothing. He just stood there, this enormous man in a hospital hallway, feeling smaller than he had in years. Music. She's awake, Marcus said, but she's weak. The pain meds make her foggy. She might not. He stopped. Just be prepared. Shaq nodded. Marcus opened the door. They walked inside together. Aisha Chen was lying in a hospital bed near the window. She was 37 years old now, small and frail. Her hair was gone, her skin was pale. An IV drip fed into her left arm. Monitors beeped softly beside her. The afternoon sunlight came through the blinds in soft golden stripes across the white sheets. She was awake. Her eyes were open, and when she saw Shaq walk through the door, something changed in her face. Music, recognition, not surprise, recognition, like she had been expecting him. "Shaq," she said. Her voice was barely a whisper. He crossed the room in 3 strides. He pulled a chair close to the bed. He sat down. The chair creaked under his weight. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, his massive frame folding in on itself to get closer to her. "Hey, Aisha," he said softly. She smiled, a small, tired smile. "You came." "Of course I came." Her hand moved slightly on the bed. He took it. Her fingers disappeared completely in his palm. "Music." "I knew you would," she whispered. "I wrote you a letter 7 months ago. I sent it to your agent. I didn't think you'd get it, but I had to try." Shaq's chest tightened. He had not seen any letter. "What did it say?" he asked. Aisha closed her eyes, took a slow breath, opened them again. "It said thank you." He frowned. "For what?" "For visiting me, in 2004, after the accident." Her voice was getting quieter. Marcus stepped closer from the doorway. "You brought me flowers, a basketball. You sat with me for 20 minutes. You told me I was going to do great things." Shaq remembered. Barely. It had been one visit, one afternoon, 21 years ago. "I was 16, Aisha continued. "And I was so scared. The doctors said I'd never walk, never talk right, never be normal. And you sat there, this giant man, and you looked at me like I mattered. Like I was still a person, not a tragedy." Music tears were sliding down her cheeks now. "You said, the world doesn't get to decide what you're capable of. You do." She squeezed his hand weakly. "I remembered that. Every single day. When I learned to walk again, when I went back to school, when I graduated college, when I became a social worker, when I spent 15 years helping kids who got hurt like I did. I remembered what you said." Shaq's vision blurred. He did not remember saying those words, but Aisha had carried them for 21 years. "Music. I wanted you to know," she whispered. "Before I go, I wanted you to know that you changed my life. That one visit, that one conversation. It gave me something to hold on to when everything else was falling apart." The room went completely quiet. The monitors beeped. The sunlight shifted slightly across the bed. Marcus was crying silently near the door. Shaq couldn't speak. His throat was closed. He just held her hand and tried not to fall apart. "I forgive you," Aisha said suddenly. Her eyes were steady on his. "For disappearing. For not calling. Marcus told me you blocked his number. I forgive you. You don't have to carry that anymore." Music. Shaq broke. He put his head down on the edge of her bed. He pressed his eyes against the white sheets, and he cried. Not the polite kind. The real kind. The kind that comes from a place you've been avoiding for 20 years. Aisha's hand moved to his head. She touched his hair gently. "It's okay," she whispered. "You're here now. That's what matters." Shaq stayed for 4 hours. He sat beside Aisha's bed and listened. She told him about her life, about law school, about the kids she helped, about the nonprofit she started in 2019 for brain injury survivors, about her husband Daniel, who had been with her through everything and was getting coffee downstairs, about the fact that she had lived a full, meaningful, beautiful life, despite what the doctors predicted. At 5 p.m., she got tired. Her eyes started closing. The nurse came in and said she needed to rest. Shaq stood. He leaned down and kissed her forehead. "Thank you," he said. "For what?" she asked sleepily. "For reminding me what matters." She smiled. Her eyes closed. He walked to the door. Marcus followed him into the hallway. They stood there in silence for a moment. "I'm sorry," Shaq said finally. "For disappearing. For ignoring you. For being a coward." Music. Marcus shook his head. She forgave you. That's all that matters. It's not all that matters. Shaq looked him in the eye. How much do you need? Marcus blinked. What? Medical bills? Hospice care? Whatever you need. How much? Shaq, you don't have to. How much? Marcus was quiet. Then, very softly, 73,000. After insurance. Shaq pulled out his phone. He made a call. It lasted 90 seconds. When he hung up, he said, "It's handled. Check your account in an hour." Marcus stared at him. "You can't just—" "I can, and I am." Shaq put a hand on his shoulder. "And I'm setting up a fund, in Aisha's name, for brain injury survivors. I want it running by next month." Marcus's face crumpled. "Why?" "Because she deserves it. Because you deserve it. And because 20 years ago, I made a promise I didn't keep. I can't fix that, but I can do this." Music. Aisha Chen passed away on September 15, 2025, peacefully, surrounded by family. Shaq was not there, but he sent flowers, white roses, 100 of them, and a card that said, "You were right, the world didn't get to decide, you did." On October 3, 2025, Shaq announced the Aisha Chen Foundation on Instagram. His caption was simple: "Sometimes the smallest moments create the biggest change." This woman reminded me of that. The post got 14.7 million likes. The foundation launched with $2 million in funding. By December, it had helped 89 families. By March 2026, it had opened 3 recovery centers across the South. Marcus Chen runs it now, full-time. He quit his job to do it. And every year on September 9th, Shaq calls him at 3:17 a.m. just to check in, just to say hello, just to make sure he never forgets the call he almost didn't answer. Because somewhere out there right now, there is a call you're avoiding, a message you haven't returned, a person you stopped reaching out to because it was easier than admitting you failed them. And this story is here to tell you, it's not too late. It's never too late to pick up the phone. Before you go, drop a comment right now and tell us where you are watching from. We love knowing where this story has traveled to. Let us know you were here. And if this story moved you even a little, if it made you feel something real, please hit that like button right now. It takes 1 second and it helps this reach someone out there who really needs to hear it today. Share this video with one person, just one, because that is exactly how forgiveness travels. One call, one moment, 1 second chance at a time. Now click on the video appearing on your screen right now because the next story is just as powerful. We will see you there.